do 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 Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Fun Bunker Film School, the podcast where we cross off items on our checklists, or our watch lists. So today it's just the two of us, just Nathan and I today.
Just the
And
two of us.
and we're going to be discussing the 2007 Paul Thomas Anderson masterpiece, There Will Be Blood. So this episode has been a long time coming. We watched this movie probably at the beginning of summer, and now it's like the end of summer.
Did we watch it? Yeah, we watched it together, right?
Yeah. We watched it in the basement where you're recording.
Yeah,
right now.
you came over. That's right. Yeah, I was trying to think. Yeah, we've been one thing or another, just haven't been able to get it recorded. But I was like, man, it's been so long. I feel like I need to watch it again at this point.
Yeah,
but
seriously. I definitely revisited a bit. But yeah, so like I said, this is a 2007 film from Paul Thomas Anderson, and this was kind of Paul Thomas Anderson's, I don't want to say breakout film because he was definitely a known player by that point. But this is kind of like a leveling up in his filmography. It's like where he takes the next leap in terms of like the movies he had done before that are very manic, high energy, and have a lot more like comedic elements, even though they're not always comedies. They have a lot more comedic elements. And while I think that there are comedy elements in There Will Be Blood, it's also like a movie about like a lot of different philosophical and religious and political themes that feels like it's much more learned.
Right.
But yeah, what did you think about it, Nathan?
Yeah, I loved it. It was one of those like, I think when you mentioned it, it's one of those movies I had heard about a ton and just never watched, and I never even knew what it was about. So I kind of went into it knowing nothing. I don't think I'd seen I don't think I'd seen anything else with Daniel Day-Lewis either.
Sure.
So that was my first exposure to him as an actor too. It was great. I think the themes of it, you could just kind of dig into quite a few different elements of the story and the characters and the character progression, especially Daniel Day-Lewis's character, like from who you see him at the start to who he is at the end. It's like it's pretty drastic, but then at the same time, like you go back and you can see like hints of that end person, like in the beginning as well. Once you have the whole picture, but yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's really good. And when you're talking about like watching the progression of Daniel Plainview, from the beginning of the movie to the end, it's really interesting because there's so many different ways. Like the movie is, I feel like it's actually a pretty clear plot, even though it might sound boring because it's about a lot of just acquisition of land and oil drilling,
right?
And this fight that he has with the local preacher in town, with the town that he builds. It's also, there's so many little ambiguous elements in it that you can kind of like chew on. Like, was he always the guy he was at the end of the film? Or was it the circumstances throughout the movie that turned him into that? Like you kind of get these, like these shades of different things where like there's all these questions of like, does he? I think he truly does love, like kind of reminding us of some of the plot elements. He has that that son that he adopts off of his coworker that dies on one of his drilling sites.
Yeah, I was just gonna
Um,
say your first exposure to him, it feels like an honorable thing. Like they're on a
yeah,
drilling site. There's an accident. This worker dies, and so he's like, okay, I'll take the responsibility of his son and raise him as my own. It's like, okay, that's seems like an honorable person stepping up and like taking on this responsibility for somebody that died on his watch. Um, and yeah, that relationship with him and his son too. You're like, as it, not, maybe not skipping ahead too much, but as it goes along, it's like, okay, is this was this all like a plan or a ploy to, because he uses that relationship with his son as like an emotional kind of tugging point as he's trying to get all this, and I'm trying to convince all these town people to give him their land.
yeah,
It's a family business. It's father and son. We work together. We are honest. We're not these big greedy corporations that are trying to come in and cheat you. We're a family business. And so then it's like, how much of this is deception? How much is like actually his like dream of having a father son, you know, oil business.
yeah, for sure. It's this. There's like a performative element when he is trying to sell something, and it reminds me a bit of like this will be a funny comparison, but it's a little bit like Nathan Fielder ish, where you're trying to figure out
Yeah,
where where the honesty is in the lie, like when he's
right,
talking about how he's an oil man, it's a family business and he wants to do it for the betterment of the people and the betterment of the towns. Like he doesn't actually, he probably doesn't actually really care, but there
right.
is an element to him that I believe does, at least in the beginning, love his son. And at the end there's a couple of things like in the scene later, way later on, you kind of have to talk about the whole film. So we're talking about the ending, like when he's meets his son comes to him when he's older and he's
Yeah,
like berating him and
hmm
is like, you are my competitor. And like,
yeah,
um, there's like a little bit of a flashback back to when when they were probably at their best in that relationship. And it can be viewed as like, he does miss that like deep in his core,
yeah,
but he's also, as you said, like he's always used him to get more oil, and he's always in pursuit of oil. And even like in the middle of the movie, that I think the most like famous scene apart from the ending, the where the oil derrick blows up
yeah,
and you have that big like that just like massive pillar of fire shooting up out of
yeah,
the air, and it's like an accident that leads to like his son being deafened.
right.
um and then he's sitting there and he's like watching the fire with Kieran Hines, and he says like, I don't remember exactly what his phrase, he's what are you so like looking miserable about, like there's an ocean of oil under our feet and it's all mine, I'm the only one that can get to it. Like even as like the earth is like blowing up, like there's all this destruction and chaos in
Right.
front of him.
Affecting his own family at that point. Like,
Yeah, it's legitimately harmed like the one person he probably really cares about at that point, and he's still just like, this is actually great because there's so much
this is
oil
great.
here.
Yeah. I was trying to remember the order of events in that scene because it blows up and his son's in the middle of it. He like pulls him out. I mean, he takes him to the little
Just
cabin,
a little,
whatever, little
yeah,
patio cabin,
cabin,
whatever it is
yeah.
thing, and like tries to figure out what's going on. Does he then? Is that before that point where he then later comes back and is watching everything unfold, or
Yeah, that's before, because the kind of the
yeah,
cap on that scene, because it kind of like starts like midday, and then like by the end, it's like this like golden hour, like sunsetted lighting,
yeah.
as and they're staring at it, and it shows just this like pillar of fire in the night.
So he's
Um,
already aware that his son is probably
yeah,
permanently
he's
deaf
like some
and
like
has
there's
left him pretty much and is now like, oh, this is great.
yeah,
Yeah,
and his son who like can't really read or write. Like, he's a little kid, like, and so
yeah,
now he's like deafened and is probably freaking out that he can't see his dad,
right.
but he's having to go tend to the fire as
Yeah.
well, but is also stoked out of his mind because he knows he's about to get even richer.
Yeah. So
um,
one thing I can't remember if we talked about this, and maybe I'm a dumb, but it for a minute it like I had to think about it. But so the very beginning when he finds this land, this area, the son, so we find later the preacher's brother,
hmm
twin brother comes and is like, "Hey, I have all this. There's all this land. It has a lot of oil." Um, and he tries to work. See, this is where it's being to remind me. He's
Yeah,
trying to
yeah,
work some sort of deal with him
yes.
to get
So
access to his father's land that he knows has oil. He was out digging or something. He's like, "I know there's oil. I've seen it."
yeah,
Um, and what does he want in return?
so initially, so yeah, it's like it starts with that like kind of like 15-minute opening segment in New Mexico that's still in like the 18 it's like in 1898 because I think that's part of this movie too is the transition between the 19th and 20th century, which we can go
Yeah.
back to later. So it starts off with that where he's like digging for silver, but then he gets the first like oil.
Yep.
Um and so then it cuts forward. HW is a little bit older and he's going around towns trying to convince people to sell them their land or and let him dig for oil on their land. Um, and then he goes to, or then, yeah, then Paul Sunday, which is the twin brother, shows up, says, there's, basically like, I have something, give me, I think he says like $500.
Yeah. Okay.
Gives me like
Yep.
$500 just to tell him like where the Sunday Ranch is. He goes and travels there under the premise. Him and HW say they're
On
like quail
vacation,
hunting.
right?
Yeah, they're
Or
like
they
quail
were
hunting,
hunting.
and
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
but then they go find like there's earthquake oil, like there's stuff like coming up from the ground, like it's very very rich.
Yeah.
And the Sunday family kind of knows about it, but they don't know how to get to it.
What to do about it?
And
Yeah.
so Eli kind of hardballs him a little bit on the price, but then he says like, "What do you need the money for?" And he says, "To build my church."
His church.
And you
That
get
was the
that.
point that. So I was confused. Like you got Paul Sunday, the twin brother, and you got
Yes,
Eli, and so off the bat, I'm like, wait, is this the same person? Because you don't see Paul again.
you're right. You don't see Paul the rest of the
You
movie.
never see them at all together. So I was like, am I just an idiot, or is there something like, or see, because he's like hardball, and I'm here and talking about the church. I was like, is this a different character? But it is. I mean, it is just. There's no like. I don't think there's any bigger discourse to it, right? It is like
No, I
there was
think
a twin brother that just you don't see again.
yeah. There's a reading of the film. There definitely is a reading of the film, and people have theorized that like they are both visions in Daniel's head, like they are, or that
Okay,
they maybe they are one and the same, and because Eli is also like the movie is a lot about capitalism and greed and pursuing wealth and everything,
yep,
but Daniel and Eli come at it from very different angles, whereas Daniel is all about the oil and the acquisition, and Eli is all about the preaching and
kind of.
obtaining power through
I was gonna
religion.
say the religious power and yeah,
Yes. Um,
and
but
I think you kind of parallel their character developments
oh
too.
yeah.
Like, I mean, similarly with Eli, you start out, it's like, okay, this seems like a fairly honorable, like a young kid. He's a little naive, seeming like he wants to build this church and impact a lot of people, and like, he's kind of looking out for his family, even like doesn't want his dad to get taken advantage of.
Right.
Uh, and then as it progresses, you're like, oh no, this guy kind of sucks too.
He's
Like
yeah.
like there's a scene later on where he's berating his own father for being like an idiot and for like I think it's whatever deal he ends up striking with uh I'm blanking Daniel.
Daniel. Yeah.
Um and like just really belittling him in front of the whole family and um yeah, then shortly after that they find the oil. He builds the derrick, and then Eli wants to allow him to bless it, right? Like
Yes.
uh he wants to have this big ceremony with the whole town, and like be a big presence, and we're gonna pray over this oil derrick and all the workers. And um, that's kind of, to me, like that's the first kind of little struggle you see between the two of them.
Yeah, the
Um,
first kind of friction that they have.
yeah, where he's wanting to, like, he's kind of exert that step up into that kind of religious figurehead position, and like take some of the glory, or the uh whatever, for this, you know, great thing that's going to
Yeah, like
benefit the whole
credit.
town. The
Yeah.
credit, thank you. Yeah. Um, and Daniel just ends up like totally dismissing him, like uh, ignoring him, and like, I don't know. Yeah, that's the first, like, oh snap, like we gotta. Uh,
Yeah. And then it's like off to the races from there. Like you get
yeah.
that one of the more like weird or quotable scenes in my opinion is the first time you see Eli's church. And like say Eli Sunday is pretty, it's is based off of Billy Sunday,
Okay.
the kind of 20th century preacher who
Yeah.
had a big flair for dramatics and things. And it's that sequence where he's like trying to drive out a demon and he keeps saying things like, if I had no teeth, I would gum you and I would bash you and I would bash you with my
Yeah.
fists. And,
That's right.
get out, ghost. And he's like, it's Paul Dano, and he's so good at this. And then he like throws the ghost out, and like, man, Daniel's just kind of like watching the whole time, like kind of, and he's seeing like the showmanship. It's just like playing out in a different way than it does for him when he's selling,
Yeah.
to these people, or he's trying to buy cheap land from these people. A funny fact about Paul Dano too, I only learned recently, um, was that in this movie he was originally only cast to play Paul, the brother at the beginning.
Okay.
He was not a big name. He was just coming off of Little Miss Sunshine. That was like his biggest
Yeah.
thing up to that point, and that was kind of his big like debut. Um, and there
There's
was
a
another.
totally different character and a totally
Yes,
different vibe. Like,
he's very nuanced. He's very like subtle, sly. It's a pretty collected
yeah.
uh role, especially when it's going toe to toe with Daniel Day-Lewis in this movie.
Mm, right.
Um but then I guess the guy who was originally cast to play Eli Sunday did not quite, it wasn't working out, and like pretty early on into filming he was let go. And so then they just had Paul Dano play the brother too, and so he
Okay.
had to hop in. So he was not like cast to play Eli, but then he fits in so well. Like he does like have to go toe to toe with Daniel Day-Lewis as a completely different character that's a lot more nervy, and like you said, like has to have like a bravado but also like a naivete. Like he's very still like inexperienced in
Yeah.
everything.
Not
um
confident, but
yeah.
to me, he exudes that, like, yeah, as you progress, that like slimy televangelist like
Hmm.
character, like he plays that perfectly, and like you can just see right through, from our end, from our viewpoint, you can see right through his theatrics and his, his attempt at playing that part. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, it's a very, it's a very interesting character, because yeah, like you say, he's trying to exude this like confidence in this, but then you have scenes with, you know scenes with him in front of the church, you know doing his thing, and then you have scenes with him one on one with Daniel Day Lewis, where he's like just this kind of nervy little, like, wimp, essentially.
Yes.
Um, but then, like, then there's like flip flop. At the end, he comes across differently as well. So it's just, yeah,
Oh
it's
yeah. Well, like when you're talking about like that change between the 19th and 20th century, like you're talking about like the church being uh, the source for a lot of like political or local power
yeah,
in the kind of 19th century, and that's how you would do things. But then going into the 20th century, like oil is everything, and like
yeah,
it still is somewhat that it's like it's that way today. Like I guess that more people use oil in their everyday lives, or oil or plastic is touched in their everyday lives more so than church.
Yeah.
Like and so it's this like transition point, and that's even reflected in some of the dialogue in that ending scene. Like I think too, like you go back to the when Eli's doing his televangelist stuff, and he wants to baptize Daniel. There's
Yeah.
that whole sequence where he kind of like makes him admit to his sin in
I
front of everybody,
abandoned
kind of
my
like
I
I've
abandoned
abandoned
my
my boy,
boy. Yeah.
abandoned my child, like that whole sequence, and saying things that aren't true about him, and kind of making it a big scene, so that it
How
can like further his church,
yeah.
and like and throughout that sequence too, like thinking about it from Daniel's point of view, and he's like just kind of he's like just you can tell he's going along with it, but he's really frustrated about it. He's like, give me the blood, Lord, and
Give me the blood. Yeah. Remind me what
um,
the like what is the leverage he has on him? Like
no,
why
that
is
I'm trying to blank on.
yeah, why does he go along with it for that?
I want
Um
to say, is it part? I wonder if it has to do with the bandy tract, because there's that tract of land that
yeah,
he's not
that
allowed to get to. The old man like won't sell to him.
he at the
Um,
yeah, because there's that when he's like goblin of all the land, this guy's like, no, I'm not gonna sell until you come to me.
yes,
And
yeah,
he at the time he's like, no, I don't have time for that. It's ridiculous. And then I think he doesn't foresee needing that land that much either.
yeah,
So he's like, what am I gonna go see this guy for this piddly little piece of land I don't need?
right,
And then the tables turn, and again I can't remember the
yeah,
specifics, but it's like that's the piece that's holding him. I think it's the pipeline. He wants to build
yeah.
the pipeline, has to go through the bandy
It
tract, and
has to
that's
go
like
through there.
that's the piece that he's missing.
Yep.
And now he's like, well, whoops. I
And
think
so
that
then
maybe that sounds right. That there's some leverage that
it's
Eli.
close enough. Yeah, that's the big thing, is that he has leverage, and then
That
it
is
comes
it.
back at the
Now
end.
it's coming back to me because he's saying because he's part of Eli's church,
Hmm.
and I think he is the one who wants Daniel to be baptized in the church in order to talk about selling the land to him. Yeah,
Yeah, right.
that sounds right.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. So you have that like humiliation of Daniel, and like Eli at that point probably thinks he's kind of won something,
Right.
and then you get way later in like the 1920s or whenever it is, when Daniel is older and he's just completely drunk off of whatever brown liquor he's like consuming the entire time. Uh and Eli comes to visit him and is talking about his radio program and
Yeah,
is looking for more money. And Daniel then humiliates him and like he makes him renounce God and say that it's a superstition and all of that,
that
only
he's
to then
putting on
tell
it.
him
Yeah,
that he doesn't need the bandy tract, because he the drainage dried up all of the bandy tract like from the surrounding area, and you get the whole
yeah,
milkshake
yeah. All right,
analogy.
milkshake over here.
Here's my straw across the room. Man, that's part of what's so good about this movie, is like there's so much of this like great American epic, or like these comparisons you can make to all of these movies that are about these toxic men acquiring massive amounts of wealth, like Citizen Kane and all this kind of stuff. But then it's also so funny to just do the Daniel Day-Lewis voice.
Right. And he does, like you said, it's not a comedy, but there are some lines and some delivery of lines that are like
Oh,
they just
totally.
funny. Like you can't help
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
laugh.
Or I always think about we didn't even touch on the brother that shows up, the fake brother.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and when he finally kind of tries to figure out like if he's really his brother or whatever, and he keeps mentioning like we get liquored up at the Peachtree dance, like in the way he
that's
says it like a
right.
couple times, trying to get him to like react to it, because it was like a big thing from his childhood, or when he's oh, we'll get all liquored up at the Peachtree dance. I think
Yeah,
about
that
that, yeah, all the
that's
time.
true. I had totally forgot about that side point. Um, yeah, it's HW that kind of figures it out too, right? That it's not his
Yeah,
real
he finds
brother.
his journal, and that's when he like lights his bed on fire and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, which is part of the catalyst of him sending HW away in the first place.
Hmm.
But at the same time, it kind of like cues him into means like something's not right here. Um, and I don't know. There's also a reading of trying to figure out when Daniel figures out that it's not his brother,
Hmm.
because he didn't know he had a brother. Uh, is
Right.
what he says. Um, and so there's like, did he know the entire time and just wanted a
Some
companion or somebody to talk to? But then when it became more and more clear that he just wanted him, or he was just using him for his money. And yeah, there's
because there, and so you do have that like kind of that stereotypical like this big figure has everything, has the power, the money, and the oil, and really the only real relationship he has that we see is his son. With his
mm-hmm,
son, everybody else is either working for him or somebody he's purchased land from or trying to whatever. And then that relationship with his son deteriorates. There's the accident, and then like you said, he ends up sending him away. And so you have this guy who's alone and has everything, and yet nobody at the same
yeah.
time. So
Oh, I should get the quote pulled up because that has my favorite, maybe one of my favorite quotes in the movie, where he says like when he's talking with Henry at night, the brother. Let
yeah,
me pull it up. Let's see.
because there is a few scenes with where they like they're drinking together and they're laughing and like and getting along.
Yeah, they kind of are, and like he in the oh come on, pull it up here. It's this clip where he talks about I have a competition in me. Um, oh, let me find it. I want to read it. I want to read it verbatim. Yeah, so it's when he's talking to him at night, and he says, "I have a competition in me. I want no one else to succeed. I hate most people."
Yeah,
And it's very like it's a he wants somebody to kind of trust in, and I
yeah,
feel like that's a very vulnerable moment for him where he does reveal like his what he truly views the world as. And
yeah. That
it's
that's true. You
oh
get that glimpse through the performance of like that you see him when he's trying to buy up this land, and I want to improve your town. I want everybody to, we all can rise together kind of attitude. And then he's like, that like you said, that moment of vulnerability, he admits that it's really just I don't care about anybody but me.
yeah. Oh, it's just a crazy. I like it's
I hate
it's
most
something
people.
I yeah. It's like the and it and the that phrasing. I have a competition in me, and I want no one else to succeed. Like it's like not even that he wants to do better than others. It's like he wants everyone else to
To
fail
fail
around him.
entirely.
Like
Yeah.
he wants to just completely crush and conquer everyone around him. Oh man.
What is
Yeah,
the?
go ahead.
I was thinking another the scene where he beats up Eli.
Mhm.
Um, where is that? Where does that fall? It's before. I know it's before the baptism scene because you
Yeah.
have a few of the there were a few of those like back and forth where like 'cause I remember at that point was it shortly after he doesn't let him pray over the
Yeah, is that
oil
I think
derrick,
it's something like that.
and then I think he confronts him about it, and then he just ends up like
Yeah, or says that
beating
he
the
owes him money for something, like he wants more money to build the larger church or
yeah
something like that. And he because I feel like that's part of that scene is he's like kind of like, "Where's my money, Daniel?" And then,
yeah
he like like punch or he like
just
slaps him and then like starts
yeah.
like throwing oil on his face, like rubbing oil all over.
That's right. It felt very like schoolyard bully type fight. Like
Yeah,
he's
it
just like
totally
rubbing
does.
his face in the dirt, and Eli's like borderline crying about it.
Yes.
And so that was one point. It's like you feel like okay, Daniel's won. Like he's totally got the power over him. He can't do anything about it. He's rubbing his face in the oil, And then you get the tables turn again, and it's like, oh shoot, now Eli's getting him up here in front of everybody, admitting to, abandoning my boy, and
abandoning
like
his boy, and
Eli is one, and so you kind of have that back and forth for a bit, like
yeah,
who is like who has the upper hand at this point, and you don't
yeah,
always quite know.
yeah.
Um,
It's definitely a movie like that's a screenwriting trick, and this movie has a very very good script. I should say it's partially based on like the first like 150 pages of Oil by Upton Sinclair.
okay,
um, it's kind of like it's not an adaptation, even though it got like nominated for I think adapted screenplay because it did use some elements from the book.
okay,
But it was very much like Paul Thomas Anderson was just like I want to take this idea and these elements, and like it's just a springboard for the story he wanted to tell.
okay.
Um, but where was I going with that? Nope, I lost my thought. It's
Well,
late, but yeah,
you and as you get to the end of the movie, and I think like you start to see, like you said, you start to see kind of the uh downward spiral of his character,
hmm.
but then like it really hits, like you said, when you get that kind of last couple scenes of the movie. um you see his success. He's got the huge house, and like um when HW comes to him, uh and he's telling him he's gonna go off on his own, right? He wants to start his
Right.
own. It's like,
Yes.
it's very like he comes to him very like humbly, I guess, and it's like appreciative of like what he's had with his father, and I feel like I need to go out on my own now, do my own thing, make a name for myself, and then he's he's married already, right? Or he tells him he's gonna get married
Yeah,
to
he's
the
either
to that
engaged or he
girl.
is
Yeah,
married to one of the Sunday girls. It's like
that's
one of
right,
Eli's sisters.
Eli's
Yeah.
sister. Yeah, um, and you know, and then Daniel just like totally unravels and explodes on him, and that's right. Yeah, if you're a competitor,
You're a
and
competitor, and reveals that he was a bastard. You're a bastard in a basket. Like he keeps
yeah,
yelling that out the hallway. Um, oh man, and yeah, you see him completely unfurl. He's just like wandering down the hallway, like completely blackout drunk, like
yeah,
shooting guns at furniture down the hallway
yeah, that's right.
and going down into and like um I was listening to the Rewatchables episode earlier on this movie, and they were talking about how funny it is because he's just like eating steak with like his bare hands, like throughout that scene. He's
Yeah,
like drinking brown liquor and just like eating steak with his hands. Uh, and
yeah, like
what do you
shooting
think?
statues and
Yeah, it's
yeah,
so bizarre. Yeah, he's just completely out of his mind, and like so. Yeah, he went to accumulate all of this power, and when he's nearly at the top, because he doesn't, I don't believe he truly feels he's accomplished until at the end when he says I'm finished after
yeah,
killing Eli.
yeah.
um
Spoiler alert.
yeah. uh but he's there almost at the top, and he's just left with like he has all this stuff. He's got a bowling alley in his house, which is cool. I think is cool.
Yeah,
And like
that's freaking awesome. Yeah.
yeah, and he's left with nothing.
Yeah, I mean, part you see that like again, he's achieved everything. He's got this stuff, and like he obviously doesn't care as you look at like the destruction of his own property
Oh
as he's
no,
like
did you disconnect?
walking around his house, like you said, shooting things.
Here, say
Um,
that again. It
you
disconnected for a
there?
little bit. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Um, and then yeah, like I said, the only real relationship you ever really see him have throughout the movie with HW, which is strained. Becomes more strained, and then here he comes back, and he like I mean, he's practically, if I remember correctly, practically begging Daniel to like, don't do this, don't cut me out, don't react like this. Like I want to have a relationship with you. I want to,
Yeah.
I don't want to cut you out of my life. And he's just like, no, you're bastard in a basket.
Yeah, he just
And
completely cuts him
he
off.
keeps saying there's another line he keeps repeating to him. I can't remember exactly, but basically the effect that like you're not really my son, like you weren't
Yeah,
like
he's just being awful, and like
yeah
the whole thing where he's he's using a translator during that scene, a sign language translator,
yeah
and Daniel keeps kind of trying to bait him into talking so that he can like mock his like speech impediment
yeah
from being deafened at 9 years old or whatever it is. Like
right.
it's so awful.
Which was another piece to me that like you would think someone who had a son who was deaf at 9 would take the time to learn sign language themselves to be able to communicate with him, but he
Yeah,
doesn't. Like
but
you
he
said, he
doesn't
has
because
to
it
use
doesn't make
this
him any money.
translator. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So that's another peek into that character. It's like, oh, he doesn't care at all. Like,
Yeah,
never did. Yeah,
like this is just what the endless pursuit of wealth will net you in the end.
yeah,
um yeah. um that covers a lot of the movie. I feel like we talked a lot about story, which we don't always do, which is great.
yeah.
I do want to call out like the technical stuff too, just like how
Sure.
good this movie looks. Um, it was like nominated for like 8 Academy Awards, and I believe it won two. One for Best Actor for Daniel Day
Okay.
Lewis, which
Okay.
is entirely deserved.
Totally deserved. Yeah.
He's just completely insane. But then the other is for best cinematography from Robert Elswit as the guy's name who did this. He was a collaborator with Paul Thomas Anderson, a frequent collaborator. And there's so many just really really cool like wide open shots, or these shots where the camera is just like kind of slowly moving around like these landscapes and the scenery and everything.
Yeah.
um
Like you
and
mentioned that one with the when as the like pillar of fire is coming up out of
yeah,
the oil derrick, like the scene of them, you know, that backdrop against the sunset, and like yeah, it's just a beautiful
yeah,
shot.
it's crazy. And like some of that stuff, it's like, how did they do that? Because this is 2007, so like CGI is definitely around. It's the same year as like Transformers.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
there's really not much. I think there's a little bit in that oil sequence, but otherwise there that the scene where it shoots up out of the derrick blows up. But otherwise there's really no CGI. All the other stuff is practical, but there's like those shots like from the beginning, like the silent section when um like all of that equipment breaks and that beam drops and it kills HW's actual father.
Yeah.
And like just kind of like how did they actually like get that filmed without, did they destroy a camera? Like did they have like a camera at the bottom of the of this
Right.
well and like dropped a giant two by four on it? Or there's a ton of really cool stuff like that. And then the other kind of technical aspect of that I wanted to call out was the music, which is done by Jonny Greenwood of Radiohead, the guitarist for
Yeah.
Radiohead.
That's
And
right.
it's this I don't know if it's his first, it might be his first like big movie score, but both he and then Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross kind of come through in this late 2000s period, and I feel like become like two pretty, I don't know, like groundbreaking film, what do you call them, composers.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, and they're doing very different things. Like Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross's scores are very electronic, and it's industrial, and it's all the stuff that Nine Inch Nails is from Trent Reznor's side. But Jonny Greenwood makes these scores that have these like scratchy string parts where it's like everything is like bowing and bending, and they're not like, it's not like a listenable score like you would just go and throw on the There Will Be Blood soundtrack like you might like with like the Lord of the Rings soundtrack or something. But it's still it works so well in the movie, and it creates all this like crazy tension. And like if you go back and you watch that like whole 10-minute sequence with like the derrick blowing up, um there's all of this like weird crazy percussion that's going on that sounds like somebody's like banging sticks just against like mugs or something like that. Like, and it's just this percussion that like keeps getting louder and
Yeah,
louder, and
that's
faster. Like,
ringing a bell. Now, I was gonna say I'd have to watch. I'd like to watch it back again, 'cause, and pay attention to the score, because I can't really. I couldn't pick anything out to you now,
yeah,
like, or talk about it. But now that you're mentioning that, I do remember, like, that scene, and
it's
like
like,
kind of,
yeah, it's like clack, 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 clack. It
and it's
just
like
kind of keeps
the
clacking and getting
builds the
louder.
anxiety and tension of the
Yes.
moment. Like, yeah,
Yeah, it's so good. And Radiohead's my favorite band, so I have to
yeah,
call it
shout out,
out.
yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you wanted to note or talk about before we get into some other stuff?
I don't think so. I think, I mean, we touched on it real briefly, but yeah, obviously the end, the climax, he ends up beating Eli to death with a
Yes.
bowling ball, right?
A bowling pin.
A
Yeah.
bowling
Like,
pin. Yeah. He
yeah,
starts
he's
throwing bowling balls at him,
yes.
and yeah, that was, to me, that was also completely unexpected. Like, again, you see the characters, what he's kind of devolved into, and then that was just like the final, like, oh yeah,
Yes.
he's totally
And
like
he's
he just
yelling,
murdered this guy in cold blood for not really any reason. Like,
right.
he just like was drunk and
And just like felt like this is like what
felt
it
like this.
had to come to. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um so you didn't know anything about that scene going into it, or had you heard like I drink your milkshake like in just
I don't know. I
one
hadn't
time?
heard it at all, and
That's cool.
I I mentioned it to my brother-in-law after we watched it, and that was like the first scene he talked about. He was like, "Yeah, the milkshake. I drink your milkshake." And it's like, yeah, such a
My
good.
straw goes across the room. I remember like when that movie came out, I had some friends that were very into movies that kind of like got me into a lot of these. And like we quoted that all the time. Like just like, here's my straw. It goes across the room.
That's great.
And I drink your milkshake. Like we just do the whole the whole sequence. Yes. Yeah, so like for that, like thinking about that too, like it's so that kind of stuff is so quotable, and the bastard in a basket, and if I
Yeah,
had no teeth I would gum you or whatever. Like um and it's funny because it so yeah, and I've talked about this on other podcasts, 2007, and I don't want to spend too much on it, but it being filmed, it was filmed and basically released at the same time as No Country for Old Men, which then it went like head to head against in the
yeah.
Oscars, and No Country for Old Men won. Um, and I don't think that there's a right answer which movie like should have won. Like I
That's
think,
another. I they both those movies to me feel like they're pretty different, but they have a very similar, like, vibe, for lack of a
yeah,
better word. And that
yeah,
was another one that I had not. I felt like I watched it, um, before, a while back before we started this, but I prompted myself to watch it because it was another one I was like, I feel like I need to watch this movie. I've heard so
yeah,
much about it, and I haven't watched it. But I didn't realize that they came out at the same time.
yeah. They
Um,
came out within like a week of each other, and like there's little anecdotes from the filming of There Will Be Blood, where like when they would film these scenes where there was like tons of just fire, that sometime that there was days when the smoke reached over to the town that they were shooting No Country for Old Men in, and they had to like shut down production, or they couldn't get certain shots because all of the smoke from the filming of There Will Be Blood had it like wafted over to their shooting locations.
that's funny.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
very interesting.
I
Yeah.
don't think anybody could make like a a bulletproof argument for one over the other. Like, they're,
No, I
yeah,
don't think so. I think this movie maybe fits. it might have the longer tail. Like it feels like it might be and end up being a little more timeless, like as
Yeah,
time goes on. But
yeah,
that's not a shot at No Country for Old Men, which is legitimately one of my favorite movies as well, and I think is potentially my favorite Coen Brothers movie.
yeah,
It's that or Fargo, um, and is that movie also just completely rules.
yeah.
um, but yeah, this movie too. Like, I mean, I'm gonna get into it here, like, um, about like the streaming service algorithm. We can kind of move on to there.
Yeah.
Um, so if you want to go down the Paul Thomas Anderson route, like he has not a long filmography, um, but he's made some pretty like notable works. Boogie Nights is kind of the one he bursts onto the scene with. It's very propulsive, very manic, very high energy. It is in the mid 90s, so kind of like very Pulp Fiction inspired. you
Okay.
he then follows it up with Magnolia, which is this story that has a bunch of like winding narratives where like
Hmm.
characters you don't think are going to be connected are connected, and that kind of thing. And then he followed that up with Punch Drunk Love, which was like the Adam Sandler dramedy.
Okay.
And then this movie is his follow up to that. So that's what I'm talking about, like that level up in his
Yeah.
filmography. It's like Boogie Nights and Magnolia had a lot of love from audiences, and had cult followings and that kind of thing. And Punch Drunk Love like had its fans, but There Will Be Blood is this like American epic
Kind of next level.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he follows that up with The Master, which is another one that people really love from
Okay.
him. Inherent Vice, Phantom Thread, Licorice Pizza, and then he has One Battle After Another coming out later this year. So,
Okay.
um, oops, that's not the right mouse. So, if you want to just watch more Paul Thomas Anderson, he is a very good filmmaker. I would recommend The Master and Phantom Thread for sure.
Okay.
Kind of some of those ones that kind of follow up. The Master is a lot closer to like There Will Be Blood in tone, and kind of like it can be really goofy and weird at times, but it's also got Philip Seymour Hoffman and Joaquin Phoenix going like toe to toe, just really good acting. Um, it's about a weird period in history. Like it's kind of loosely based on like L. Ron Hubbard and
Oh, okay.
like kind of like cult kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
What
yeah,
year was that?
that was 2012.
Okay.
So yeah, it took him 5 years from this movie to that movie. So it's like he has like a lot of space. Like his last movie, like Licorice Pizza, was in 2021.
Okay.
So it's another
Another
five
5 years
years until
between.
yeah,
Yeah.
or 4 or 5 years. Um, so if you want more kind of like slow burn psychological westerns, I mentioned No Country for Old Men. I think that
Yep.
actually fits in with that. It's a neo western, but it works. Also from 2007, The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. That's another very slow, deliberately paced Western. Um, and then a little bit newer would be The Power of the Dog, which was a Jane Campion movie.
Yeah.
It's on Netflix. It's got Benedict Cumberbatch and Kirsten Dunst,
Yeah.
um,
I
and Jesse
remember that one coming
Plemons.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, that one, it took me a little bit. Like honestly, when I first saw it, I was like, I don't know if I'm totally in on this. Like it didn't grab me right away, but over time, the more I have thought about it, like it's stayed pretty sticky in my mind.
Okay.
Like it's really interesting, and it's this western, but it's also um a little bit thrillerish, or a little bit like this just kind of the way this whole thing unfolds. It's really really smartly done, but it's also like about uh like Benedict Cumberbatch's character and Daniel Plainview in this movie aren't too far apart. Like they're just
Okay.
really nasty guys. um and then if you are maybe looking for something that kind of takes you on a journey of one guy kind of or losing his mind, or just kind of like accumulating power or something. He's like, in search of something greater, and like it takes everything out of them. You could go Raging Bull from Martin Scorsese, which is about
Okay.
a boxer. Um, you could also go as far back as Citizen Kane.
Okay.
um, I'm not going to often probably recommend Citizen Kane. I've seen it, and I think it's one of those movies that I don't think I'd recommend to a lot of like people who are like trying to get into movies, like, and like it's not like I'm going to push you to Citizen Kane right away. I think it's a movie that gets better the more movies you see,
The more you
because you see what
appreciate,
kind of like came
yeah.
after it, or you see what was being done around it, and you realize how sophisticated it was, especially for its time.
Okay.
Um, but it's also, I mean, it's similar to this, or it's about a guy who is just accumulating money and power, um, but then ends up dying lonely and bitter.
Mm.
So yeah, it is good, but it's not going to be for everybody, and it is very old, from like 1941. um, the movie that uh, Paul Thomas Anderson watched the most while making this was The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, which is also from the 40s, but that is about, as more closely related, where it's about three prospectors who find gold, and
Okay.
there's paranoia and betrayal at play. So that's another classic you could go towards. Um, and then I think the last one I would recommend would be Killers of the Flower Moon, another Scorsese,
Yeah, that was
from
a recent one here.
yeah, from just 2 years ago. But
Yeah.
you're talking about uh, the West, and American expansion, and how greed and power, and in that case, a lot of violence and
Yeah.
exploitation, lead to uh, complete and total moral corruption. uh, so that I really like that one. That was my favorite movie of 2023.
That was Leonardo DiCaprio,
Yep,
um,
and De Niro.
De Niro. Okay.
Yep, there's a lot of great character actors in that too, like Brendan Fraser and uh, oh, what's the name of the guy? Um, I'm not remembering him, but like Jesse Plemons is in it, and there's like
Yeah.
all these characters, kind of these character actors pop up. It's really long. It is like
Yeah.
three and
That's
a
like
half hours. It's really
okay.
long, but it doesn't feel like it. It's really good. Yeah.
Just one of the things
Oh,
that's hard to start when you've got children in a life.
yes, it's another one that's hard to start when your typical movie start time is like 8:30 or 9
Yeah.
o'clock.
Right. I that's totally off topic. Like recently, I went. I can't. I think my wife had. I was during the school year, so like the kids were in school, and my wife had a regular thing she was going to, and during the week. Anyway, I was like, I'm gonna watch the old Lord of the Ring extended editions,
Yeah.
and I got through them, but it took me like each movie was probably at least three different sittings. Like I don't have to watch like an hour at a time in the middle of the day while the baby napped, and then like
Yeah, exactly.
so it's like yeah, it's so hard to find the time to get to it,
Yeah.
and then to be in the state of mind to like yeah, let's start a 3.5 hour movie right now.
Yeah,
But
exactly. It's very real when you get excited when you look up a movie and it's like 90 minutes. Like I looked up
yeah, right.
Black Bag, which was a Steven Soderbergh movie from this year, and it was like yeah, 85 or 90 minutes like on the dot. And I was like, "Whoa."
Ah, yes. That's another one. Like I haven't seen Oppenheimer, and that was one
Oh
like
yeah.
my wife and I both were like, want to see it. And well, there was one night we were like, hey, let's watch a movie, and yeah, it's probably like 8:30, and someone was like, I want to see this. So I pulled up. I was like, it's like I think it's approaching 3 hours, isn't it?
I
Or
think
it's
it's
at
3 hours, yeah.
3 hours. Yeah. I was like, I don't think I could do that right now.
Do you want to
But
stay up till midnight? Yeah, like
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
We'll just watch 3 episodes of The Office and go to bed.
Yeah, exactly. Circling back to
Anyway,
The Power of the Dog, that also has a Jonny Greenwood score. That's really,
okay.
that one is like, if the score for There Will Be Blood is very like stringy, that one, like in the Netflix subtitles, it'll be like, it'll say like eerie string music playing. And that like particular caption shows up like 5 times. I started laughing like when it would come up, and it was just like this really like just sounded like nerves being pulled like against these
Yeah.
strings or something. Yeah. Yeah, so that covers There Will Be Blood from 2007.
Sweet.
Next up on the list is going to be Parasite.
Oh, it's a great one.
Yeah, great movie. So we'll talk about
Who's
that next time.
who's talking about that with you?
Right now it's Kolb and Luke and Zach.
Okay. Okay.
So go
Yeah.
from a party of 2 to a party of 4 there.
Party of 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great movie.
Yeah, for sure. All right, cool.
Sweet.
We'll see you guys later.
Talk to you later.
Do 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 do